Hey everyone, welcome back. Today going to do a little overview of the Drolet HT3000. The model number is DB07300. Just picked up this stove a couple of weeks ago. Managed to get under the wire in August. I think it was August 29 I picked it up, so that meant I could take advantage of a $150 rebate, which I should receive very soon. So this is the HT3000. I guess is the top of the line when it comes to Drolet, or Drolet, whatever you want to call it. Whether you're speaking French or English, that's the emblem there. Drolet. So anyway, basically, it's a really big stove. It's bigger than the Sahara that I had. You see the previous video. And the most impressive thing, I guess, for me, I already had a couple of small fires in this because I'm trying to get the bricks and everything conditioned and the paint and all that. So, let's see what we got here. Yeah, it's really big, actually. Let me just give you a measurement here. From back to front, of course you can look at the specs there. Yeah, you're looking at about 19 inches. So, you could take an 18-inch log piece of wood that way. Possibly even 19 right to the edge there. And just one moment, and I'll get this measurement out here. I'll do that. Very difficult. Yeah, you see, the tape is buckled, but it looks like you can take up to 22 inches if you put the wood in that way. It's got a huge door, which gives you a really good view of the fire as it burns. Let me see if I can get the afterburners here, the catalytic, whatever they call it, up in the top. And the bricks, just standard bricks, of course. The interesting thing is that there's no insulation behind it, behind the bricks or anything. It's just bricks right on the metal. And there's a plug down here in this area here, as you can see, but I don't use that. I typically don't use that to clean out the ashes. I think it was just a terrible mess, especially with the last one, because it was kind of tapered and I had to clean it very well for the plug to seal. That's the plug there, as you can see. They made it a lot better now because it's not tapered, it just goes flat, so it seals better. I just typically use the ash pan here. Put it out here on the under hearth, and I use a shovel and I scoop it out. So yeah, it's we already got some the caramel color going on the door here because we had a small fire, as I mentioned. They changed the handle mechanism and the bolt end. From the old Sahara, they have some sort of a Teflon wheel here, and it locks, as you can see, very smoothly. Goes in there, and it just kind of rolls in place, so that's cool. Nice big glass, as I mentioned. And yeah, I made a hearth for it. Basically, I used the thickest plywood I could find, which was 3/4 inch, and I just put the tiles on it. I cut the corners after the fact. The wife decided that she didn't want the corners left stuck out, so I cut them off with the grinder very carefully. So let's have a look at so I guess you call this the decorative vent. You can put a blower on the back of this, and of course this is where the hot air will blow through. And it's very surprising how big it is because, as you can see, it's no problem. Let me give you an example of the size of the stove there. It's no problem. You could put a couple of pots on the stove on this area here, and you can cook away. And this is the hottest part of the stove here, the front part. And if you just want to keep things really nice and warm, and to the point of almost, almost boiling, like as you can see, I keep a little carafe here, teapot, keep water warm. It puts humidity in the house, but it also makes for a good cup of tea sometimes. 6-inch outtake here, outflow. The adapter, and of course 6 inches goes pipe. Inside diameter, I should say. It's really big, 520 pounds all dressed. And look at the specs back here. Now here is where, while I'm back here, this is down here, that's the air intake. It's designed, it can be used for trailers, small trailers, mobile trailers. And here is a section where the blower goes out. Basically you just cut out these little notches there, and the back up a bit. It's hard to use this camera here. There. And the blower would be installed there. And here, I thought this was for the blower when I first seen it, but it's not. It's for a thermostat of sorts. So it turns on the blower. When the stove gets so hot, it'll turn on the blower. And when the stove cools off a bit, it shuts off the blower. So I guess that would be great, because these blower motors, I mean, if they're running all the time, they get dirty, and of course the bushings and bearings and all the inner components are going to wear out. So if you don't need it on, if it's not blowing hot air per se, you may as well have it shut off. So that's a neat feature. Here is the specs of the stove. Here's the cautionary tale. SBI Drolet, which is, let me see. Boy, it's really hard to use this camera on a stand, to tell you that. How's that? Yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, here is the minimum clearances, all your information for installing it in a corner on an angle or straight off the wall. It gives you all your clearances, and for safety reasons. And it is the HT3000 model 1271. So that's pretty well it. That's not much more I could show you about the stove. It's really too hot this time of year. It's September. Typically too hot. I had 2 small fires in the stove, and whoo doggy. The old Drolet Sahara put out 80,000 BTUs. This here puppy puts out 130,000. The draft is down here, by the way. So it's right is off, down, and it's got little bubbles here to indicate. Boy, this is really weird. Using it with a little tripod on there. You see there, little markers. So that's the off and on. Yeah, this little puppy puts out 130,000 BTUs. And based on the fires, of course, when I had the 2 small fires in it some time ago, I could tell the stove really puts out more heat. So I would say it's going to be a pleasure having this in the middle of the winter when we get temperatures with wind chill down to say -30, -40 here in western Newfoundland. Typically, though, we have a mild climate here, so don't get too spooked about that. But we do get cold weather, and we certainly do get warm weather. But there it is. When you're in the middle of a winter, this is the kind of stove that you might want to have in your home to heat it. It's a stove that's going to burn 12 to 14 hours. Once fully loaded. Once you get that fire going, a nice set of bunch of coals down in the bottom, and you load it up with nice seasoned wood. Get that thing going and shut the draft down, and you go to bed. When you wake up in the morning at 7 or 8 hours later, she's going to be still well heating, and lots of wood still in the stove. And so if you decide you need to leave the home and you bank the stove, of course, you load her up, as I just mentioned before. You can look forward to going 12, 14, maybe a bit longer than that, hours, and come back and know that you're going to be able to get the fire going. You just rake all the, basically what I do is I rake all my coals, hot coals, into the center. I put some smaller dry wood on it and open the drafts, of course. You can leave the door open. It recommends leaving the door open once you first starting your fires as well, until it gets going, to give it extra oxygen for burning. You know that you're going to have a stove that's going to be very reliable, and it's going to take a long time for it to go snuffed totally out. So I'm thinking probably 16, maybe 18 hours before it's totally snuffed out, and you would have to make kindling and get the fire going again. Anyway, that's the Drolet HT3000. I'm not going to ramble on. The next video maybe will be when I light it again, when it cools off, and we'll probably do that in speed mode, and so it won't take too long, and give you a sample of how it burns when it first starts off, and how it does a secondary burn of the gases, the smoke. See if we can get that captured on video. Thanks for watching, everyone.